Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. I have two 80 proof, 40% alcohol, Kentucky bourbon whiskeys, and they are independently bottled, sourced, what we call sourced. In Scotland, they say independent bottling. Here we say sourced. Same thing. It's they're select stock bourbons. Where what happens is there are distilleries in Kentucky that produce a lot of bourbon, and in Indiana as well. And they produce a lot more than they can actually use. So what they do is they'll offer it as a contract distilled bourbon for other companies to pick. They'll say, "Oh, we have all these different ones offered," and they'll pick one. "Oh, this is the one we want." They'll send it to them and they'll bottle it, or in some cases, bottle it for them under their brand name. You see that done in beer all the time, right? With like City Brewing doing contracts for other companies. The big contract right now with Pabst Brewing Company. That's a controversial one these days. Some people are not pleased with what they're doing. I'm kind of on the fence with their stuff. Kind of leaning toward not really liking it. But I'm going to give Schlitz another chance later this year and see if it's improved. Seemed like it went down. Pabst also kind of went down after they took it over. But other people are saying the opposite. There's other people saying, "Oh no, it's better now." You see, so same thing happened with Rolling Rock. Other people say they destroyed Rolling Rock. Anheuser-Busch ruined the flavor and all. To me, it improved. I always felt that Rolling Rock. It always seemed like Rolling Rock had a little off flavor to it, like a chalky mouthfeel. I didn't like that. That was a feel more than a flavor. So anyway, but that's just an example. Do they do that in the wine world? I believe so. I don't know what terminology they use for that, but I believe that's done also. But anyway, here is G&W Private Stock. And it's telling you right there what it is, private stock. It says Kentucky Sour Mash Bourbon, straight whiskey. So it's a straight bourbon whiskey, meaning what? It's aged at least 2 years. And it's all from the same state, Kentucky. Doesn't have to be from the same distillery if you read the regulations, but from the same state, from selected reserves, telling you right there on the label. Now, they're being upfront about it. Some of these companies try to be deceptive, like they'll make you think by their clever labeling that it's not source, but they can't ultimately get away with that. They could get in trouble. They have to put it on the label, but they'll do it in a way that you don't notice it unless you really study the label. But this one is upfront. I appreciate Laird and Company giving us the true story. From selected reserves, G&W U.S. registered trademark, says right below. It is a trademark since 1933, this brand of whiskey. Gooderham and Worts, which is actually, I believe, originated in Canada, but their distillery in Canada is gone now. Aged 3 years, right there on the front. Now, the only deceptive part is by G&W Distillers, Scobeyville, New Jersey. There's no such company. It's Laird and Company. But they are able to use what they call trade names, as long as it's registered with the U.S. government as, okay, here's Laird and Company, and here's the 100 trade names we use. Hello, Jay. Polyakov vodka for me today. Cheers and have a nice Thursday. I never heard of Polyakov, but it's probably nice. There's so many good vodkas on the market. Phil is in Paris, right? Paris, France. Cheers to you. Now, it's dark outside, but I'm thinking the light should be coming. I was walking earlier and the wind was brutal. It's freezing, very uncomfortable. I still have a mile to walk. Saying 29 degrees now. Below freezing. Golly. Here is this late in the year too. Late in the winter. In February, usually mid-February, that's the end of the freezing weather. Here we are in late February. All right, here's Bird Dog, Kentucky. Bird Dog, we say Bird Dog. Kentucky bourbon whiskey. Whiskey people nicknamed this bottle the Irish Setter bottle. Makes sense. Bourbon whiskey, select stock. Telling you right there, select stock. Doesn't say straight bourbon for some weird reason. That I can't explain because there's no age statement, which means it has to be at least 4 years old. It's all from Kentucky, right? So why wouldn't it be straight bourbon? That mystery I cannot explain. Sorry, I can't explain it. Now you might say, oh, well, it's aged in used barrels. Well, then it couldn't be bourbon. You see, it would disqualify it as bourbon. They could call it whiskey, you know. But anyway, that's the mystery. But it is bottled. I don't know who makes it. They don't say on the bottle who makes it. It just says bottled by Three Springs Bottling Company for Western Spirits. Now, most of the stuff that Bird Dog puts out is flavored. Blackberry, salted caramel, strawberries and cream. They put out a lot of one is like lime or something, key lime pie flavor, a lot of flavored whiskeys, none of which I've ever tried, but they must be good because it's always in stock and it looked like a lot of people are buying it. So if it was nasty, you wouldn't sell. You know, that's a good argument there. Morning Ron, says Joe Cobb, I rarely drink vodka. I liked a bottle called Russian Standard. Yes. That's produced by Bacardi Limited. They've got it listed on their website, but they don't give any information about it. Russian Standard, it was imported from Russia because of the war. Ontario stopped importing any Russian products. Yeah. I bet you Bacardi Limited, they might have switched their production to another area of the world and just kept the name. Although didn't Bacardi lose their didn't they have a situation where they lost their royal warrant for some of their products in England, and they alluded to the fact that the two companies that lost the royal warrant, Cadbury that makes all the candy, I think it was Bacardi Limited, that they kept doing business in Russia. Now the King Charles, he just pulled their royal warrant at the beginning of this year, wasn't it, in like January, first week of January? But he gave no explanation. You know, they don't explain those things. They just pulled it. Or I should say, let it expire, because it only is good for 5 years. So they just did not renew it. Well, LCBO, Liquor Control Board, Ontario, at least not all in grocery stores, etc. Right. Some American states have those. Iowa has a liquor control board. You can only buy liquor in Iowa from the state government. New Hampshire, same way. North Carolina. Louisiana is like a freewheeling option where anybody who wants, or theoretically anyone can sell liquor if they get a liquor license. So I asked the Knights of Columbus, why don't y'all sell liquor at bingo? They said it was too much of a hassle to get the license. They didn't say they couldn't get the license. They just said it was too much of a hassle. Now, other Knights of Columbus councils might go through the process and get a liquor license, but it's a little bit more restrictive. But on the other hand, if you're willing to do it, you got it. And grocery stores sell liquor in Louisiana. Corner stores, like a convenience store, gas stations, everywhere, you know. So you don't really see liquor stores here because there's too much competition. You know, no one's going to make a special trip to the liquor store when you can just pick up liquor when you're at Winn-Dixie buying groceries, or at Walmart. In fact, Walmart in Louisiana has a liquor section. And I have viewers from around the United States. They say they are amazed, you know, by that Walmart could have a liquor section, and they've never seen that in their state. I said, I know, but it's right in the store. It's just a section you can go in and just buy it off the shelf. You don't have to tell the lady, oh, I want this from behind the counter. You just put it in your basket, your shopping cart, your buggy, whatever you call that. Market basket, I think in some states they call it a market basket. We call it a shopping cart or a buggy. And you just take it to checkout. Now, of course, some of the expensive stuff is locked in a wooden cabinet with glass, you know. You have to unlock it. That's pretty much any place going to do that. But if I go to Winn-Dixie, same thing. Just get the liquor off the shelf, unless it's one of the ones that they're a little worried about getting snatched, so they'll put it up behind the counter. Yeah. All right. So I'll show. Good. Now this is very dark. And someone last night. Oh, and they were asking, were we doing a Wednesday night beer thing? I said no, because I delayed it a week. That would give people more time to get a Mardi Gras or Carnival beer. There are specific beers that are made for the Carnival season. A Beat a Mardi Gras Bock, which actually comes out sometimes before Christmas, but because Carnival doesn't start till January. But I found one called Mardi Gras Pills from Urban South. There's well, there's a lot of them. There's Carnival Cake from Mississippi. Carnival Cake, which is literally tastes like a cream cheese filled king cake, which is strange, isn't it? Um, but I give people another week to find them, and if I have to do a solo, I'll just do it. No big deal. I won't be stressed about it. Um, but that was the reason, and of course, some of these Wednesdays I'm not going to do it because I go to baseball games. I have season tickets. I threw that season ticket in the trash yesterday though. I paid $5 for that ticket, but it was worth to eat the $5 because sitting out in that cold, cloudy, damp, 20-mile-an-hour winds. Plus, my team lost. But I mean, it was like I was like, oh, I can't do it. My father was like, "You crazy if you go sit out there?" And everybody at work was giving me a hard time, like, "If you go sit out there, you're nuts." I said, "Well, I'm not crazy." Now, a friend of mine, he did. I said, "Good luck to you, Sal. Girl, I'm not doing it." But he lives right. He lives a few miles from the stadium. I'm 36 miles from the stadium, so it's a big hassle to get up, and then have to turn around and leave. But he could just say, "Oh, it's too cold. I'm leaving," and drive right home. Yeah, if I lived a few miles from the stadium, yeah, I'd go try it out, sit in the cold. If I couldn't take it, I'd leave. I'm probably the only person from this town that goes to those games. Most people not driving that far to go to games. I mean, LSU, Louisiana State University, the premier team, yeah, I guess they have some people, a few thousand that drive 40, 50 miles to go to each game. But, obviously, the 10,000 people that go to the games, they live around Baton Rouge. And I know people that live in Baton Rouge go to the games. But you get it. When I was walking this morning, I was amazed by the cold. I can't get over this. It's just unusual for it was 82 degrees last week. week week before last. And even last week I was wearing short pants one day. It was warm, kind of warm. All right. Now they were telling me at work, bring a flask to the game, bring bourbon and sip on it. That'll warm you up. Well, no thank you. All right. I'll show you the website for the G&W because there is no website for the Bird Dog Select Stock. Or there's a Bird Dog website, have no doubt. It only shows the flavors. And they just mention that they make regular bourbon. They don't describe it. G&W, or as they say here, G&W, Gooderham and Wirtz, Private Stock Bourbon 80 proof. That's the information they give you. Basically no information. I bought a liter bottle now. This bottle is a liter, and it was $8. Now there's G&W Private Stock 86 proof, which is aged 5, and it's 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted. Yeah, you're not going to find that one for $8. It's probably expensive, but I have never seen it, so therefore I don't have it. Now, could this one be the same mash bill as that 5-year 86 proof? Yeah, it probably is the same mash bill. It's just it's not aged 5 years and it's not 86 proof. They brought it down to 80. And when I was on a distillery tour back years ago in Kentucky, the girl, I say the girl, a woman, but to me, any woman under age 40, I'll call a girl. I just, and even they'll say that, us, we girls went shopping. It was actually an informal New Orleans political organization of women, and they called themselves the Girls. They were involved in politics, city government back in the 1950s, and they were called the Girls. They were trying to reform city government. Okay. But she said, do you know how we bring liquor down to the right proof? 80, 86, 90, whatever we want to bring it down to. Honestly, I didn't know. I don't know these industrial techniques. The other guy, there was only two people on the tour, me and the other guys. Probably why they stopped doing tours, because they weren't getting enough traffic. You know, it's just same thing with Texas with Anheuser-Busch. I was the only one on the tour, and they probably said, what's the point of doing this? Nobody's coming out to the, nobody goes to Houston on a tour, you know, as a tourist, to go to the warehouse district and tour Anheuser-Busch. I mean, I would, and of course I did, but most tourists are not going to do that, which they probably realized. And so now they might still have that banquet room that they rent out for events. That's probably still in play, and it was beautiful. But she said we just add tap water to it. That's all we do. They take that 190, you know, that really strong, not 190 proof, but whatever, you know, the barrel proof comes out the barrel and it's really strong. Most people wouldn't like it. Some do, some like barrel proof, but that's a niche market. Most consumers don't want that. She said we just add tap water, and they have instruments, obviously, that can measure it, and they bring it down to 80 proof, and that's it. Tap water. You know, now people are all paranoid about tap water. You see them going around buying bottled water all the time. I don't drink tap water. You drink it in beer, and you drink it in bourbon, and you drink it in soft drinks. You think they're using bottled water, spring water for that? I mean, give me a break. You say, well, Jack Daniels uses spring water. Yeah, because it's next to a spring and it's always running, you know, and it's plentiful, so they use it. Limestone water. It was built next to the spring for a reason. So they have a endless supply of water. Abita Brewing Company in Abita Springs, Louisiana. Yep, next to Abita Springs, and that kind of thing. You know, you got to assume that there's enough water coming out the spring, though. I've been on hiking trails in Mississippi where there's a little water bubbling out the ground from a spring, enough to drink. Might give you upset digestive system because it's not purified, but I never got sick from it. But that's not an industrial level of water. Okay. So we have to assume that neither one of these have coloring or flavoring added, because bourbon is not allowed to have coloring or flavoring added. Once again, I cannot tell you why the Bird Dog is not described as straight bourbon. I do not know. It seems it's baffling to me. That's all I'm going to say. It's baffling. But I'm sure there's some specific reason that I've not thought of or that I missed. I can't say overlooked because I've been trying to think about it. Yeah, this smells like regular bourbon. Like anybody in the world that knows whiskey at any, you know, minimal level is going to say, it smells like bourbon. I wonder who it is. I wonder which one it is. Get the corn, the vanilla, the wood, the oak. It's just a typical aroma. It's not anything remarkable. And same thing here. Nothing bad, but nothing like standout. But let's be honest. That could be said for a lot of bourbons, but you can't say that because people get offended, you know, they get upset. And they'll say, oh, no, man, I paid a lot for this stuff. Well, I didn't say you didn't pay a lot for it. That was never the argument. I was saying that it probably doesn't really stand out over other ones, and then they'll get irate, you know. But if it's the case, then you should do the blind taste test, and you could get it right every time. If it's that much of a standout, you do 20 taste challenges, you get it right every time. Maybe you get it wrong once, you know. But man, a lot of these, they just don't stand out. They just taste like the other thing. It's a very generalized flavor. This is my perception based on my senses: smell, taste, I guess, sight, the color appearance. Could sour mash make a difference? It could, because sometimes I find these sour mash whiskeys, well, it doesn't say sour mash here. I think it did. They'll have sort of like a sourdough bagel. It sounds crazy, right? Sourdough bagel type flavor. They just do. I don't know how to explain that. This one tastes very similar. Charred oak, corn, little rye spice. Might have some breadiness from malted barley. So I'm thinking, don't know. I'm thinking that these are very similar, like mostly corn, maybe around 20% rye whiskey and about 5% malted barley whiskey, give or take. Don't taste wheated, because wheated will give it like a soft mouthfeel, like a bready thing, more bread, because what do they make bread from? Usually wheat. Could these both be coming from the same Kentucky producer who's remaining anonymous? They very well could be. Who is the producer? I don't know. Could it be Jim Beam? Could be. They got a huge capacity. Could they have some overflow and some extra capacity where they can do contract distilling? Of course. And can they keep it anonymous? Well, yeah. That's the agreement with their purchaser. You said could be Sazerac, Buffalo Trace. Could be. Ultimately, we won't know. Could, just it's no use worrying about it. But we know one thing, it's almost certainly not some little crowlery with very limited capacity. Because how could it be that? It's got to be some mass producer, because G&W is not exactly a rare product. I found it in New Orleans. I just stumbled across it. I mean, yeah, it's rare for Louisiana, but you probably go to New Jersey, New York State, Pennsylvania, it's probably in every liquor store. It's just probably a common product. I saw Bankers Club at Total Wine in Metairie, the black label. That's another one from Laird. Same thing. Anonymous producer. You would assume it's the same people making this. It would be a lot easier to get all their bourbon stocks from the same producer and have it shipped out there. Now, you say, yeah, but is it the same stuff just relabeled? Hey, I didn't say that. And, it makes you wonder, right? Now, Buffalo Trace, they absolutely denied that. I asked them on the phone. I said, do you ever take bourbon and just relabel it? And say, oh, no. She said, no way. But she was very careful in her answer, the lady on the phone. She said, all Buffalo Trace bourbon is a unique recipe. Now, did she mean all Buffalo Trace labeled bourbon, their brands, or did she mean all the bourbon made at Buffalo Trace? Does that apply to private label? Because we know they make private label, like Jethro T. Boots. But I didn't press the issue because she seemed to get a little irritated by me asking that question, or almost offended. So I dropped it, let it go. But she said, Kentucky Dale, that's a separate recipe. Kentucky, she brought that up. Kentucky Dale, that's a blended bourbon. Well, it's actually technically a blended whiskey. She said, that's a separate recipe. I said, okay. I backed off, I wasn't even attacking them or anything. I was just asking. I was curious, No, I mean, Burley Sullivan says, hey, cheers back to you, Burley. Wesley Ethheimer says, reminds me of how tons of energy drinks taste damn near identical. They tweak one ingredient a tiny bit and call it a new product. I think that's what they do. Like in a practical sense, it's the same thing. But they might play around with like this one is aged 3 years and that one's aged 2. All right, so you change the age. Same mash bill. Or then you might say, well, this mash bill is 75% corn, but that one's only 74% corn and 22% rye. That one's 75% corn and 21% rye. So it's like these little marginal little changes. But then there is no difference, because in a practical sense, there's no difference. So I think that's probably what they're doing. And like I said, bourbons, they're all blends. They're taking corn whiskey that's aged 3, or maybe it's not aged at all. And they're taking rye distillate, not aged at all. And they're taking malt barley distillate, not aged at all. They're producing the whiskey separately. But remember, before they age it, it's just a distillate. Okay, so let's say they blend them together, that specification, 75% corn, 21% rye, and 5% malted barley, or as they call it in Scotland, single malt. Fine. Now they age it for 3 years in a new charred oak barrel. Ding dong, it's a bourbon. Simple, right? Well, if they make it a so-called different recipe, all they got to do is just change the ratio next time they blend it, right? Just go up to 76% corn and drop it to 20% rye. Keep the barley the same, 4%. Now you have technically a different product. Would it taste different? Probably not. So, you brought up a good point, Wesley. It's like you could just play game. It's like Taco Bell, we got different items on our menu, but they're all made with the same stuff. A flour tortilla or corn, the hard one, hard taco, beef, shredded lettuce, diced tomatoes, diced onions, and shredded cheddar cheese. And they have the cheese sauce, and they have red sauce and green sauce. And the light sour cream. I don't like that stuff. They used to have full-bodied sour cream. And they have pinto beans that are pureed like refried beans. Okay, fine. They take those base ingredients, and they mix them all different ways, and then they got 40 different menu items. Everybody knows that. People even make jokes about that. It's like, no matter what, the same thing, flip different ways. I mean, I go to Taco Bell because it's A, cheap, and B, I'm just at work and I go run over there and get something to eat and come back and eat it. I'm not sitting there dedicated to eating. Oh, I got to think about what I'm eating. It's a big project today. No, it's just, I want to eat something and eat it fast and get back to work. It works out because they're usually pretty fast. Sometimes they get the order correct. And I can get a double stack taco for $1.99. Do I get stuffed and filled and like, oh, well, I ate so much? No, just keeps me going. And it's not fattening, it's not. And that's how that works. It's good bourbon. This is good bourbon. You asked me, is that a good bourbon? I would say yes. Is it fabulous? I guess it's not fabulous. Certainly not off-putting or nasty or repellent in any way. I can't see why somebody would criticize this. I don't understand that. How about over here? Yeah. This one seems to have more corn flour, though, like cornmeal or cornstarch. And basically that's what bourbon is, because they pulverize the corn, the kernels, that dry corn, the yellow corn. I've seen it happening in action. They were showing this to me at the distillery tour. That's a real tour, not where you have an experience and they show you videos about the company. Why would I want to see that? They take you in the distillery all through, showing you making the product. And they showed that big hammer. It's like a big hammer, and it comes down, bam, and it crushes the corn, bam. And you put more corn in, bam. It basically pulverizes it into powder. In other words, cornstarch, which they ferment. They add water to it and yeast, and they let it ferment, and it turns into, let's call it a corn beer, but with no hops naturally. And the lady said it would be so sweet, like you wouldn't want to drink it. We wouldn't sell it. We wouldn't sell Blanton's corn beer or Barton corn beer. Then they take that corn beer and what do they do with it? They distill it, and then it goes to bourbon. Just like brandy, they make wine first, which they sell. Corbel sells sparkling wine, but some of that sparkling wine that they make, they distill it into the next step: brandy, Brent wine, Brent wine, Dutch, burnt wine. Now, which one of these would I prefer? The one that's cheaper. I'm not tasting much difference. I have to tell you I'll tell you that right up, truthfully. So, the Bird Dog regular price is running about $18. I don't know what G&W sells for normally. I know it's not $8 a liter. That was a super sale at Elio's Wine Warehouse, close to United States Highway 90 in New Orleans, westbound side, like if you're heading toward Texas. They run amazing sales. Like they'll get deals from a distributor. You got to check them out. I don't live close to that place. My friend David does, so he'll go over there and check them out. They'll have like crazy, like 12 packs of certain beer for half the price. Oh, there's daylight. Well, how about that? But they had this for $8. I knew nothing about it, but I could see that it was a liter. I knew it was bourbon. So like some video reviewer said, you'd be hard pressed to find a bad bourbon in the United States. And I agree with that. And I knew I'd like it, and I do. Yeah. Once again, is it a standout? Certainly not. Is it something special? Certainly not. Is it enjoyable? Certainly is. Is it worth $8? Most definitely. And it's worth a good deal more than $8. If it's $20 for a liter normally, yeah, it's worth it. I took advantage. Now, this Bird Dog, why did Walmart sell it for $10? You know why? They were trying to get rid of it. Probably nobody bought it. But I did. For $10, I was on that like white on rice. I figured the same thing. Will I love it? I don't know about loving it, but I'm certainly not going to hate it. And for $10, I'm not passing it up. There is no way I'm passing that up. Was it still on the shelf a day later? No. Because all the other people that come into Walmart and see that price going to buy it. And they get rid of it in one day, maybe two, if something goes wrong. That stuff's gone in a snap. And I've gotten so many whiskeys and rums and tequilas from Walmart on these closeouts. But you got to catch it right when it happens. You know what I mean? You can't say, "Oh, I'll get it later." You ain't getting it later. Like when they had George Dickel Superior 12 and the George Dickel Rye, both. I don't know why, for $12.50 each. Now, anyone with marginal intelligence knows that is not the correct price. That is a deep discount. That's half the price. I saw that. Boom, bought both. A day later, it's gone. All right. Walmart had Elijah Craig, 1780. Not Elijah Craig. Sorry about that. Evan Williams, 1783. Pretty well regarded bourbon. Evan Williams, 1783, $9. Think I'm not going to buy it? That's over $20 in most stores. Of course, I'm going to buy it for $9. I'd be out of my mind not to. Did I need it? No, I got too much bourbon now. But for that price, I'm not going to. No, I'm not passing that up. Sorry. All right. So, honestly, I'm going to call this a tie. I I don't know which is which, and I'm not even going to try to take a guess because that's really unfair because it's a 50-50 shot. You know, and I could say, well, I think this is Bird Dog because it does seem a little more regular, and this one does seem a little more sour mash, but then that's not fair. It's like flipping a coin. I say, I got heads. See how well I did? You know, look, I'm such a good taster. Nah, I'm calling it a draw. But then, of course, G&W wins by default because it was $2 cheaper, but I get 1,000 milliliters as opposed to 750. So I'm calling it a draw. That puts me at 1 win, no losses, and a tie. I don't want to be fake on this channel, you know. So, but let's just see what they are, just for curiosity. Well, actually, if I'd have guessed, I'd have gotten it right. So informally, unofficially, I got it right because this is the Bird Dog. And that was the G&W. So my thoughts were correct. But I didn't want to go on that because that was really thin. That was a thin margin. So unofficially, I'm 2 wins, 0 losses. But officially, I'm at 1, 0, and 1. I got plenty more bourbon coming. Some of it is maybe exciting. I don't know. I guess they're kind of pedestrian products, but I don't care. I like these kind of products. Then we're on to Canada. Now we're going to the 51st state. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. Some people get so angry about my humor. You know, I'm just kidding around. You can't tell I'm kidding, you know. But anyway, and we're going to do the Canadian whiskey. Which one do I have coming up next? I don't know. I have to look. Oh, yeah, Canadian Lake. Canadian Lake. Man, there's like 5 or 6 people in the world that love that product. So don't laugh it off. Like I said, 5 or even 6 people in this world that love the product. I've never had it, so I can't comment. All right, well, y'all take care. Sorry for the long video, but I was just like trying to think about things while I was doing this, you know. You know, sometimes you be thinking about things and then, but yet you're thinking about nothing at all. And then your mother's like, you know, Mike, what's wrong? You're on drugs. It's like, Mom, no, I'm not on drugs. I just want a Pepsi. Go get me a Pepsi. And she wouldn't get it for me, you know, and then it turns into this big fiasco. All right, y'all take care now. Bye-bye.